My name is Shaw. I go by Shaw Makes Magic on the internet. I used to go by Shaw Makes Music on the internet because I was a musician for a long time, and I toured, and I had a band and a manager and a booking agent and did that whole thing. But somewhere like kind of early mid-20s, I realized that it probably wasn't going to pan out for me. I was very mid-curve at music and the whole world, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. But like I was in New York, and I realized this is quite a difficult life, and I started to just pursue other passions. And I found I was actually more passionate about like the creation of technology, and I was working on hardware, and then I got into software, and I was just really, really interested in that whole space. I'd been like a nerd as a kid, and I'd really got into music, so I was like, I don't want to just be a computer nerd my whole life, but I kind of ended up full circle back to it, then got really serious into programming. I'd say I've been working on AI agents and multiplayer worlds and like hard programming problems for about a decade, seriously, professionally. And before that, I had some jobs that kind of led me into it. I used to be a teacher. I used to like homeschool kids and teach them technology and how to be a YouTuber and stuff. But ultimately, I really wanted to kind of be at the forefront of it myself, be an entrepreneur. So was working on this for a long time. Did a lot of different projects, had one successful exit, did a few things, kind of came to AI16Z. I've been working on this agent framework for a while. I'd actually worked on a bunch of different agent frameworks, like iterating through until I came upon something in TypeScript that I liked. Usually agent frameworks are written in Python, very popular language, but I wanted to build something for web developers. So I started working on this, and I made a startup. I tried to make a startup, but I sort of didn't have conviction in it. I got through the MVP, and I was going to raise money, and I was just like, I just don't really want to be doing this for 8 years. The idea of the startup was that we would use the AI agents to connect you to other humans. I thought that was a really like novel thing. It's like waifus and AI girlfriends. It'd be more like helping you to actually make better human relationships. I didn't really stick with that, but I did keep the agent framework going. I kept working on that, and that became Eliza. And I just happened to have that right place, right time when the AI agent meta happens in crypto with Truth Terminal and Mark Andreessen donating. So we launched our own agent, and it was so offensive and live and quick to reply that people were like, well, that's clearly just a bunch of dudes in a warehouse. So we had it open source. We showed people it was not a bunch of dudes in a warehouse. AI could be offensive and swear a lot and be silly and funny. And that kind of broke the doors open. A lot of people started using our tech to make their own agents, and maybe, obviously got a lot of hype. In the middle of that hype, I kind of knew like, well, this is a research project, and we still have a long way to go. So for the last 6 months, I've just been coding nonstop, building the next version of the agent framework, which we actually shipped, and now we're working on the next agent framework, the next version, and the rest of the team is just like getting into maintenance mode on what we've already released with Eliza 1.0. And I'm just working through like really complicated problems around how do agents trust people or be trusted? How do you hire? How do they like create something like a solution for you and then figure out how to make money off of it or charge you for it? Like payments integration, trust integration. So yeah, I'm primarily a programmer. My days are thinking about hard problems and try to solve them in code, and banging my head against my keyboard a lot. That's pretty much it. That's my story. That's how I got here.
Well, appreciate the story. I didn't realize that before it was Makes Magic, it was Makes Music. What was what were you touring? Like what kind of music were you making back then?
I had a band called Starlight Girls, which is still there. It's on Spotify and all the places. We made albums, we toured. I played guitar, and then I played drums in another band for a little bit. It was just like I was a sound engineer as well, and I was mixing bands like 2 nights a week, and I was I had a programming job, and then I would like mix music at night kind of thing in the transition time. And I just really had this like, wow, there are so many fucking good bands in New York. Like there's just so many good bands, and I think our band is good, but good is not going to make it in this world, like entertainment, especially if you're not top 0.1%. And I just thought like, well, what could I be like? What would I not be mid at? What would I be like actually uniquely good at? And I think that's kind of why I landed on what I'm doing, is just like, oh, here's a space that's like a good mix of skills. Agents are not just pure math understanding. There's like a lot of like understanding language and logic and stuff. So I just, yeah, it was a good fit for me.
And was magic like sort of in reference to like, agents and things, or was that sort of a separate catch-all for just making things?
I actually had before I got into agents, I was really into digital humans and augmented reality and virtual reality and that stuff. And
what do you mean by like digital humans?
Well, a couple of different things. There's like avatars, like 3D characters, and then kind of making them lifelike. And then there's the other thing of recording with photogrammetry real people. So I had a whole other career inside of programming before agents, where I made like a interactive music video with Justin Timberlake. I made a 20-minute interactive mixed reality piece with Marina Abramovich, the performance artist, on the HoloLens. We started actually on the Magic Leap. We did like probably the largest AR exhibit ever at the Serpentine Gallery, and then switched to HoloLens. So I got to play with like, big players, big technology. Honestly, so like, I'll just a little bit of story time. I played a show in Pittsburgh with my band, and this dude came up to me and was like, "Hey, I really like your band. Your band was really good. We should chat." And he's like, "I just started working at this company called Magic Leap." And people who are in AR would definitely know what Magic Leap is. They were like a unicorn that raised $2.5 billion. They were just like the hottest thing for a minute, and they released AR headset that kind of fizzled out. But at the time, they were like, there's this new hot immersion startup, and they had like just raised their first round. And I was really like, I want to work for this guy. So I started putting all my stuff online and like asking him like, "Yo, can I work for you?" He's like, "Actually, I'm going to quit, but do you want to start a company together?" Oh, I was like, "Yeah, awesome." So that was my first company. And he was like kind of famous, as he had directed a movie, or he had produced a movie. It was just like in the world of like actors and, famous people and stuff. And I was like this, I had been like a wannabe rock star, and I was like a nerd programmer. And suddenly I'm like hanging out with St. Vincent, or like all these, Sigur Rós, these crazy musicians backstage and doing these crazy projects. Like he's actually dating Marina Abramovich now, but that happened because of our project. Just like, whoa, so I got to like go, like, because, I really owe it to him, that I got to see this aspect of the world, and of like, whoa, like you could actually be a rock star programmer. Like that's weird. But that was very, very lucky to like that I met somebody who kind of put me in the right place to have these like really big name, interesting experiences, in the middle of all.
What do you think that like he's at your show and sees like he likes the band, but like, I'm sure he's not just trying to start a company with like any musician. Like, what did he see in you, whether it was like that first night or after like getting to know him better? Like, how did that go from I like your music to like, let's start a company?
Well, I very intentionally, at the time, Instagram was very, very popular. And I probably still is among some people, but I just
I was gonna say it's still pretty popular little platform.
I don't know. Yeah, I log in once in a while. But I had just like, I was like, I'm going to get this guy to fucking hire me. And at the time I was working on a lot of different like experimental prototyping and just like stuff that was very Instagram friendly. Like I had invented a haptic glove that let you grab physical objects in VR, and it like stopped your fingers from moving as you grabbed it. So it was not like a huge invention, but it was like a thing I'd been working on. And I was posting videos of that. I was posting videos of all this like experimental art stuff I was doing. So I was like trying to be noticed. I was like, "Notice me, senpai," kind of thing. And this went on for like 2 years, or a year and a half, something like that. Like when we met, he was like, "Oh, cool band." And his quality as a person is he's just like the biggest fan. Like I just never met somebody who like goes to a music show and just really loves it so much. Like I honestly, I'm a musician. I go to shows. I'm like, I'm kind of bored. This is okay. And so I don't know. It wasn't just that he saw something in me, but I saw that he saw this in like a lot of artists, that like people who are good, he'd be like, "Wow, that was so fucking good," and he was like so into it. So yeah, it was kind of like, "Hey, let's be connected." His job was as a creative director at Magic Leap, bringing bands in to create stuff. So it was kind of like started as like "Hey, you guys should come in. We should like make an AR thing." That's kind of how it started. And
then you're like, "Hey, I happen to like be pretty good at this AR stuff."
Yeah, it was like literally just a fate thing. And I was kind of deciding what should I do with my life. And I was like, well, obviously I'm going this direction. Like this is going to be the hot thing. And I was a little wrong. I don't think even now AR is not quite here yet, but it was a great learning experience for sure.
Do you, I mean, it seems like you're pretty interested and passionate about like the AR, VR stuff, but maybe, uh, disenchanted with the progress, so to speak, or, expected more by now. Were there specific things that made you like, I'm not really going to focus on this as much anymore and sort of navigated you towards more of the AI stuff? Or was it just sort of happenstance that you sort of moved on from that sort of stuff?
Yeah, there are kind of two things. I moved on from, I mean, we always knew that like this technology, in order to get adopted, would also have to work for mobile. Like you can imagine a Fortnite VR that would be pretty, like, it would be pretty good and it would work well. But like 99% of the players are going to be on like a mobile or like a desktop or a console. No one has VR. There's no install base. And so
Right.
the big problem was just like anything you make, you basically have to like be like, well, is Oculus going to give us money to make this? Because otherwise they're just not going to be profitable or sensible. And so my personal experience was like we were building these bespoke art pieces, like art experiences. And so this is right before NFTs like smashed, like right when they were becoming a thing. We recorded this recording of Marina Abramovich doing this performance piece. We put it on like 3 HoloLenses and we sold them at Christie's. And did an auction, the whole thing. And it was like this, like you're getting this HoloLens with this performance art piece on it. It's very one of a kind. And I thought it was very, very conceptually interesting, but I didn't love that it felt like I was like making stuff for a very niche demographic of people. It didn't have a lot of reach, and it's like, it's not really my people. Like this is a fun world, but I'm kind of a tourist in this art world.
Right.
So yeah, I wanted to build stuff like internet stuff, like stuff that you would use, that I would use, that stuff that I would, and so I kind of, I got right from one terrible hype wave into the next. Cause I'm just like, I've just loved this stuff forever. And then so like after the VR thing, I was like, okay, well, spatial web. And we were like building a spatial web engine, and then metaverse becomes hot and Facebook changes their name. And we were right there like, wow, this is going to happen, guys. The metaverse is going to be real. I made a bet against John Carmack for like 10 grand. That the metaverse would happen. Because I was like, oh yeah, Web3 totally going to take off, totally going to be a thing. Even if we fail, someone's going to succeed. It's totally wrong about all of it. But I really enjoyed like the social network aspects and those things. I started to just like say like, well, why do we even need a fucking headset? Like actually, most people don't want an immersive experience; they want a casual experience. And so I started, thinking much more around that, like building casual experiences and really like the other big thing that happened was like right in the middle of that during the metaverse thing was GPT-3 came out, and
Yeah.
that was game changer. GPT-2 was like not useful. It was like, okay, cool toy. GPT-1 was like just totally used. Like, okay, it can predict the next few words, cool. But GPT-3 was like, holy shit, this thing can think. This thing can actually reason out stuff. And it was very primitive, and we had very small context windows. Very, very small and very expensive. But that was when I started working on agents. Was like, okay, this is clearly gonna be a thing. It's never gonna get worse. If we just do this, the cost of these tokens is gonna go down. This is gonna eventually be like the thing. And I've been working on this for about 5 years, just from whenever GPT-3 came out is when we started.
Yeah, I remember when GPT-3 came out, it's like sort of like a vivid thing where I hadn't played around with 1 or 2, and then 3 was the first one that got like pretty popular, I'd say. It's like a little bit before ChatGPT, I guess. And, obviously it's gotten like way, way better since then, but it still feels like that was like sort of the shock moment where everything else, even though it is like, really significant, especially when you like jump versions or whatnot, that sort of out of nowhere was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that that would be enough for someone with pre-existing interest in this area to take the leap, especially after sort of, realizing that in the VR space, like at that time, at least, you found that most of what you were doing was like sort of only accessible for a very, limited few.
Yeah, and AI was so inscrutable then too. Like now AI, like there's tons and tons of papers and frameworks, and it's like pretty easy to get into. But it was really like not obvious at the time. I remember like trying to learn TensorFlow and just be like, what the hell is this? Now it's like, I don't know. It's a really, really like, a 18-year-old kid can just hop on YouTube and like learn from Andre Karpathy how to make GPT. But that was not the case.
Right. So I think maybe last thing, well, a couple things maybe on like to wrap up the VR and AR stuff, or digital humans and whatnot. First, I'm curious if when Apple released the Vision Pro, if you like sort of had any expectations there or thoughts, reflecting on how that all went, if you tried it and whatnot. And then secondarily, like I've always been a big fan, like to your point, like I think the idea that VR needs to be like headset driven, like it would be cool and everything, but I don't really want to spend all day in a headset anyway. And like I've always really enjoyed even like pretty simple platforms that have been around for a while, like Mozilla Hubs, for example, where like as an alternative to like, I don't do Zooms. I mean, like, well, we're on a Zoom now, so I guess I shouldn't say that. But I don't do, video conferencing really. I might do like one a month or something, but I generally operate like pretty pseudonymously on the internet. And so I don't really, share my last name or show my face. And as a result, like, I don't really do video, Zoom, whatever, Google Meets, whatever.
Right. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I love Mozilla Hubs. And like, not just, even if I was totally comfortable with the Zoom thing, it's just like so much better to me. There's like this spatial aspect. You've got these cool like avatars. It doesn't matter if you're looking at the screen the whole time. People don't think you're like losing focus or whatever. It just feels like a more organic way. Like, I love like sort of, in-person stuff's great, obviously. I like, audio calls, but I just don't like video calls. I just don't find them to be really additive or useful. And I think they sort of prioritize things that don't matter, such as like eye contact with the camera at the top of your computer. And they, like when you jump into a hub, it feels much more organic for what like virtual meetings and virtual hangouts sort of should be. So I don't know, like that seems like something that wouldn't necessarily depend on a ton of like technological innovation, where like someone just needs to sort of crack the code on what makes it more interesting to like hang out in these places and like make that more of a norm. That sort of thing, which sounds like you also, dabbled with pretty heavily, might have some like nearer term potential that doesn't depend on like sort of, Meta finding some hybrid somewhere between like their, the headset and the RayBan Meta glasses.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. So the Apple thing, like for years, we were like, just hold the line. Apple's coming. They're going to launch a headset. It's going to change everything. And when they actually announced the headset, I saw it. I was just like, oh, this is so NGMI. This is so fucking, I can't believe they released the heavy set. Like anyone could have told fucking Tim, like, just do the light glasses. Don't even waste your time with that. Like no one's going to use that or buy it. It's way too heavy. It is uncomfortable to wear for more than an hour. And you just tell like from the day like they announced it, I was like, oh, this is so NGMI. I think they learned a lesson and they're going more toward the Meta approach. I think we'll probably see like an Air version that's very lightweight. I think that heavyweight, like you're just fighting physics. Like it's just uncomfortable as fuck to have something on your face. And even if you made it half as heavy, it's still crazy on your face. And it's like, it doesn't play to human biology. And I genuinely at this point think we'll probably get to like VR through Neuralink before we get to like wide adoption of headsets. Now, the glasses might actually get the form factor right, but the physics of combining light is so fucking complicated that I'm pretty bearish on the the augmented reality as a pass-through device, where you're doing like an optical pass-through with the flex, and it's like it's combining the external light with the internal light. So then there's like video pass-through, and I think video pass-through makes a lot more sense to me. But man, making that thing like less than 50 grams on your face, like good luck, good fucking luck. And I have all of them. I have the X-Real. I have all the toys. And there's a few of the glasses that are more like heads-up displays, like the Even Realities, or a couple, I forget the names of the other ones, but those are pretty good. Like they're pretty useful. And what I realized is like, I don't actually need all this. I don't want any of this shit. I just want a camera on my face. I just want my AI to see what I see. I want to record that. I want to like remember everyone's faces in a database. I want to like have a diary of what I did that day. And I think that's really the killer app, is actually getting a camera onto your face, not the like getting the vision of metaverse into your reality. I think that'll be a future thing. I've like written extensively about this. I was like writing a sci-fi book about the like metaverse. I don't know, everyone plays in reality, but like I just think it's like a little bit farther than we necessarily anticipate for like really dumb physical reasons. Like we don't have jetpacks, but you could get a jetpack. It's just like so fucking loud and hard to use that you wouldn't. It's not that jetpacks don't exist. And so it's the same kind of thing for me with AR and VR is like, it's just very NGMI technology because it doesn't play to like how we socialize or put the thing on our face. But I do love like everything about it. And I very much like the appeal to me of VR more than anything is like, this feels like the training sim for agents to go into the real world. Like we're getting perfect lab condition environments. We know like when you're looking at me, what you're saying to me while you're looking at me, like I can start to record social graces and information about like, so the agents can know, oh, this person's near me and they're looking at me and they're talking to me. So they must be referring to me and I must respond to that. And like knowing when to respond is one of the hardest unknowns in agents, especially as they become robots in our physical world. And so I see this as all as like kind of necessary technology for getting us to robots and like the future of this stuff. But what's like the network effect? Like, where do you start? Where do you actually get network effect and win and get people going on this? And I've started to really, I don't know, I think I've leaned into like social media is the metaverse. People love the 0D, 1D experience. The scroll down, like 1D experience is great because it's casual and I can be, you don't even know this, but I might be scrolling right now while I'm talking to you, you know, like or whatever. And I think there's a lot to be said about that kind of thing and just the world we're in. And so like generally we could apply this technology. Like if the technology, yeah, okay, $1 billion company, infinite money, blah, blah, blah. But am I going to wear it all day? Does it solve the fundamental problem? Who cares about the things it allows me to do? Does the things it doesn't allow me to do, you know, is more defining, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. And for what it's worth, I think you like should be able to, you know, scroll while you're in a conversation. Like, obviously it's good, you know, you talk to someone, you want them to be like, you know, paying attention and whatnot. But like, the fact of the matter is like people multitask anyway. And like, I don't know. It's like, especially if you're on a, you know, Zoom call with 11 different people, like, and everyone's sitting there at attention, like, because, you know, even if you're like listening, like more than anyone else, you're not actually getting rewarded for listening. You're getting rewarded for like keeping your eyes up or whatever. It just makes no sense to me. Like I personally better like process information if I'm like walking anyway, or, you know, pacing around or whatever. So
I would say that what's stopping VR from success is not the headset. It's not the physical thing. It's actually that it's just too immersive. It's that like the vast majority of our life needs to be multitasked, like you're describing.
Right. Do you have, you know, thoughts on like where we might be headed from like a general device perspective, you know, independent of, but also including like VR, AR, where like, it seems to me to be pretty silly that we're still sort of confined to these like 3x5 inch or whatever it is, rectangles that we use our thumbs to, you know, manipulate or whatever. Like, why don't we have, like, I know, like, you know, what is it? OpenAI and
Johnny Ive
are working on something that's probably like in this realm. But I don't know. It seems like we should be freed from these phones by now. I feel like, you know, to your point about Tim Cook, like I think if Steve was still around, they'd probably be working on something like that. But I don't know that Apple actually is beyond sort of like the more, you know, just sort of following the lead on what people expect in regards to.
I mean, innovator's dilemma. Like they stand to lose the most from the iPhone era going away. Obviously,
yeah. So I don't know. Do you have like some sort of pieces of what could be a part of that, or like haven't really thought that through too deeply?
No, I thought about it a lot. Like I mean, I thought about this a lot. Like peripherals and like more than most problems. I'd say this has been the defining problem of my life. My first company when I was
what specific problem? Like what the next device should be?
Yeah, and like human computer interaction in general.
Right.
I work, you know, I started in haptics, in physical haptics, and then working in VR and AR, and then like doing a lot of experimental technology devices like wearables and things. And my sense is that like, you know, a lot of it can be replaced by your phone, but there's a few things that your phone really, really can't do. One of the things it can't do is that the camera is not well placed. You really need a camera to see what you see. Like this is probably the biggest missing piece. If I had that plugged into a cloud and a microphone, like I don't really need anything else. I could do my entire job walking around the world if I just had a camera and a microphone, because my agent could tell me what's going on, give me the status, and I could just be yapping at it, updating projects. And the AR would be great. I have these like X-Real glasses that give me like an infinite screen in front of me, but it like it just kind of sucks. It just kind of hurts to like look at and read. And I'm like, I don't need to read any of this. Like this should all be automated. So I have a feeling. I mean, I know that what IO is going to be, which is the Sam Altman Johnny Ive project, is some sort of wearable, probably a wearable necklace or a wearable that goes in a pocket, with the goal of the camera being exposed to what you see, and just being a very like voice-driven hands-free device. Like they are trying to build her. That is ultimately their obvious goal. And there have been a lot of other attempts. There's some things like Friend, which is interesting. Have you seen Friend? Friend.com. Which is, okay, cool. This is the other side, is like the microphone. I think it's really cool that I could have like a diary of my entire day as I walk around, and like everything I said is transcribed, and then I can like do that in my data processing. So now my agent has all these insights. I'd say that the two missing things are that camera and microphone. Whatever we can do to get that on our face in the lightest form factor possible is probably the best, or some kind of necklace. I think necklace would be fine too, because then it kind of has a wide field of view and has egocentric kind of view. But it's going to have to be something like that. Like the limitation of the phone is fundamentally that it just doesn't put the camera in the right place. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's just not very productive. I mean, if you're talking about most of the productivity happening through audio, which is what I personally would love to see, then I guess, all that is sort of capable through the phone. But if there's any sort of like physical input, desktop monitor with a keyboard just like knocks the phone out of the park. So I don't know like what sort of combination might be possible where like, I guess, there is the potential that you will be able to like sort of process work faster, even though like audio is limited versus like how fast you could type. The AI will just be doing so much of like the legwork that it doesn't even really matter like what your sort of like input rate is, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think about my own life right now. I really don't like ChatGPT or use it for anything except I use it a lot for the voice mode, because it's just, I'm walking around the world and I'm just asking questions. I'm getting the answers immediately. And then I'm like, fuck, I got to do some work. I just open up a new thing. I start now that I've got Codex, I can actually like come up with entire deep ideas and be like, okay, go deep, research it, come back to me in 30 minutes, or like go write the implementation and submit a PR. And it's such a nice workflow. I have this thing called Whisper Flow on my computer. And I do a lot of, as I'm doing like vibe coding or just telling the agent to do stuff, I find that if I can speak about it, I give so much more information density. I cover every fucking detail of the thing I'm talking about. And then it just turns it into like perfect instructions. So it's a much, much more effective way to work than typing at this point. And so then really the limitation is just the screen feedback, right? Like you need some way to see what the hell is going on the screen. I would say like, the Amazon glasses, the Even Realities ones I have, I think they're focals or theirs, whatever. Like they're getting lightweight enough that you could like meaningfully have a heads-up display. It's not going to be a lot of text you can read, but like it's enough that you could like say like, oh, cool, that thing is done. Hey, what's the status on that? Oh, it's okay, cool, great. Yeah, keep it going. Actually do another run. You know what I mean? Like you just have that kind of like really casual conversation with the system. So yeah, that definitely seems to be where it's going. It's more about like, how do I get what is the form factor is less relevant to like, it's mostly about like, how do I get the camera and microphone in the right spot to capture the right information?
Right. And do you think something like RayBan, the Meta RayBans are like on track to something like that, or are there like limitations there?
Yeah, they are, because they're not focusing on augmented reality, right? I've only tried them once, but my sense is that, and I would actually have bought them, but they don't have a fucking SDK. You can't program them, which is really annoying. But they focus on what really matters, which is that they're trying to capture like life moments.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And they're really focusing on that audio visual experience, which is, and the reason that they're doing that is almost certainly a data play. If you look at like Facebook's research division, like so much focus on egocentrism, and like VR has almost completely become a robot, and like robotics agents play for them as well. I think in the long run that VR is not it's not an entertainment technology. It's actually a robot technology, and we use it for imitation learning and training robots and stuff. And like they are producing a ton of research on this, so that supports this idea. So I think that like in the long run, this is about data collection, for yourself or for them or whatever. But that data collection is what's going to enable all this other stuff. Like where agents really become powerful is when they have your data. They're kind of just like ChatGPT with like some extra capability without that. But once you give them data, it's like, it's fucking on.
Right. And yeah, I actually record these podcasts. I started doing this a few months ago when I started the Farcaster sort of focused podcast. I after years of recording at my desk with like a heavy duty microphone, I decided with like the Farcaster more lightweight podcast that I wanted to free myself from the desk to be able to walk while I talk. And I actually found that RayBan Meadows, like surprisingly given the form factor, actually have like sort of the best audio input. And so I actually I'm recording right now with RayBan Meadows.
Oh, awesome.
They're pretty good. Like I actually don't use them really very much for like sort of the taking photos and videos. I probably should use them more. Like they're great. But even just for that alone, like they're nice. Like it's not, I've tried like sort of with other headphones and mobile microphones and whatnot. And they're just, first of all, they're like either heavier weight or they just aren't that good. And the Meadows are really good. So I'm sort of like a user by default from that. And hopefully as they continue to evolve, we'll start to like sort of use more of the capabilities. And then on the ChatGPT voice conversations thing, I was like, when obviously ChatGPT was useful, but I was like from right when ChatGPT came out, I think I went as far as to like tag Sam Altman or something, which I wouldn't really, it's such like a low probability thing. Like you don't really tag like Sam Altman for like a feature request. But I was like,
he responds to stuff though.
Yeah, like we need the voice version. Like I think they had talked about it too, but like it wasn't live and it had been like months. And I was like, I need the voice. And so like once they put that out there, and it's gotten a lot better too since they first put it out in terms of like stopping and starting and things like that. But yeah, it's super useful. And I don't know, I don't have as like it sounds like you have like a pretty clean, like sort of reliable workflow for like wrapping it into your like work at the desk. Like for me, they're still sort of detached where I'll do like sort of separate things, but it's definitely helpful for like sort of brainstorming and like thinking about things. And I mean, you're basically just talking to an expert in everything whenever you want while walking, which is like, for me, that's part of why I want to do the podcast while walking too, is like, I think better, I listen better, and a number of other things.
Well, because we're hunters. You actually, we literally think on our feet, and it's kind of crazy that so much of this hard work is done in a chair. Like it's not how I have to pace. I'm actually not pacing. I'm like rocking back and forth like an autistic person in my chair right now.
Yeah, no, any movement is helpful, I find. So I can sympathize with that. So I think, what you were talking about was sort of like naturally segueing us into the agent stuff. So maybe we can talk about like, it sounds like there was some serendipitous timing basically with, you working on agents and then sort of the meta entering, and you were like kind of fully prepared. Were there things like, when you recognized that, did you have to adapt what you were working on to have something like shippable, or were you like literally ready to go?
Well, no, I mean, we had something shippable. It just wasn't like, it was very much like a research project on GitHub that I had been maintaining myself. And people started coming in and we started getting a lot of pull requests, like people pushing code in. And I told my devs, like, let's just be maximally like, let's just pump the numbers. Let's just accept pull requests. Let's just like let people contribute. And one lesson I learned is that a lot of people don't understand how the system works. They just kind of like figure out their solution on top. That's good enough. And it got pretty bad. Like it got really tech debted really quickly. We also had like a monorepo where we had lots of plugins, like a plugin for every single chain and connect like social platform and all this stuff. And we started putting them all into the repo, and it got so big and complex that it became very, very hard for us to work on our build. So we had to like start to build the plane while we're flying it to be like more of a production ready thing where, okay, now we got to start building a plugin registry and move all the plugins out. They got to be discoverable by the system so we can still like work with them and install them. And like just all the like, God, we have like 500, 600 contributors. Like, how do we deal with this stuff? And so there's a lot of that, like going from being a solo project to a team of 10 people on, team 10 devs working on supporting thousands of devs, was crazy for me. And there's certain aspects of this that I'm really not good at. Like I'm really a like sit down and I can bash out something for 14 or 18 hours straight, but I'm not like a give you tech support and Discord type of person. And so I definitely like having to build a team that's able to support on those things has been like monumental and or instrumental, I'd say, in making this thing work. And really like the last 6 months, I've had so much fucking pressure. I'm just like, I don't want to lose this moment. I really, really want this to work. I have been nonstop workaholicing for like since November. I had a brief tour. I went to like toured Asia and met a lot of people and stuff. But then I kind of realized like the touring and the circuit, the like conferences and stuff, it's all like pretty low EV compared to me just sitting down and building and working and getting this stuff done. So there's still, we actually have a new version of Eliza that we've already shipped called Eliza 1.0. And then I'm working on the next version of that while the team kind of just maintains and supports, kind of answering like, well, where are agents going? Like, where is this, like this? I honestly don't think that any AI agent framework or anyone is even close, like even remotely close. I think most people haven't even gotten to like the first real challenges. And I think we are at those challenges, which are like trust, how do we, payments, auto coding, like new capability, new plugins, building entity like relationships and understanding like people and how they relate to each other and how they know each other and these like entity graphs and all that stuff. Like there's all this complexity that we just like we've just gotten to the point where like, look, it sends a transaction. Cool. Cool. It's like an agent wallet. Great. Great. But then there's like all these other like really hard human problems that we just haven't really taken on. There's this thing I keep thinking about called Moravec's paradox, which is that like the more recent something was created by humans, the easier it is for AI to do it. And so like it's easy for an AI to do chess because we just like created chess or Go or League of Legends,
Right.
play a game. Really, really hard to do like hand-eye coordination or like trusting a person, like like these kinds of like deep human like moral philosophy. And those things are much more inscrutable and I think are a much longer time horizon to get right. So I don't know. I think the whole agent space is probably both like really exciting and there's like way more value than has yet been tapped, but it's also like not as far in some ways as people think, or like in ways they take for granted that they really shouldn't. They're like very non-trivial.
Do you, well, first of all, does this circle back on like the human to human stuff? So what you were working on, I think you had mentioned like you were maybe raising money or had raised money, you were going to work on this like sort of connecting humans to agents or AI sort of thing?
Well, I think a lot of where all this is going, and I think a lot about like the next social network. And I don't think I could go make a new like Twitter and be Twitter. I mean, we're obviously on Farcaster, who's I think Dan has had this conclusion. He's really like, well, we're not even gonna be Twitter, we're gonna be something else. We're gonna do our own thing. But what he's done is he's kind of traded that for a niche, right? So like a really strong niche. And props to the team for building something and actually like getting traction at all and getting a foothold in a space that's really hard. But I think that like there aren't going to be a lot more social networks in the way that we imagine them, because like the space has been pretty full. And like if you want the text social network, you want the video social network, like that's been perfected. But what hasn't been perfected is like I still can't find my people, or even harder, I still can't find my person. Let's say I wanted to go like find the love of my life. Like social media cannot give that to me. If anything, like the incentives kind of make it impossible. So you can imagine a social network where it's mediated by AIs. I think so this is going to happen anyway, because like I think the fire hose is a bit too overwhelming for a lot of us. I find social media to be kind of hard to use, especially like past 100,000 followers. It's just like a fire hose, and I never like can follow up or keep up with people, and they're just constantly asking questions. And in that world, I could imagine like a mediated social experience where I have like an AI between me and in the social. So I like post. I'm like, hey, post this. Then it goes and like posts on Twitter. I'm like, did anybody comment on it? And it's like, yeah, it was actually a couple of good comments. And it kind of just filters out the spam, filters out the bots and the hate mail that people wish I had cancer or whatever. And I just get like the stuff I really want to see. And then on the other side, as I'm posting stuff, it's not just like putting it in everyone's feed and they have to deal with Shaw. It's like going to the people who really wanted to see my content. Are like, wow, that's really awesome. And if I'm like, yeah, I really want a new co-founder. It's not just like, okay, cool, go on co-founder dating and like get matched. It's like, I'm going to go find you that perfect person, that one person in the world who is literally the most perfect for you in the database of stuff. And I think that will be the killer feature of the next social network, is that it helps you to find the love of your life, or the co-founder you're going to start your $1 billion business with, or like that is the human problem that I think now needs to be solved, and where like AI has an incredible value proposition. And that network won't look like, I mean, it could even be built on it could just be built on like the networks that exist. It doesn't have to be a new network at all. It's just more about the paradigm shift to letting the AI drive some of those things for us.
And is that part of what you guys like? It feels like sort of, that would be like sort of a different end of the spectrum from like where you've started. Obviously, that's a future sort of like more ambitious thing.
Yeah.
So like there's no one doing that now anyway. But just given like sort of the starting point from which you're gonna sort of navigate from by default. I don't know if like sort of you had this in mind when you started with like AI 16Z and now Eliza, like, but is that something that is an approachable problem from your starting point, or something that you're interested in moving towards, or is that sort of separate from like it feels like where you guys are at is going to be sort of inherently more financial than like human to human in a way. Not that it won't be like human to human.
It's definitely not. It's not the problem that we're solving today. The problem that we're solving today is, I think I've tried to think about like the first principles of the agents. And like let's say you had a factory that built widgets, and that's cool. You could build like n number of widgets. But what if you had a factory that built factories? And now your factory is building factories, building widgets. And now you're like n squared. You're scaling the amount of widgets you can make incredibly. And that's kind of where we're at with AI, which is like, we've just gotten to the point with the latest like Claude Gemini models, like just in the last few months, like only the latest stuff. And even then I'd say it's like the worst it's going to get. It's like just almost getting there, but it's gotten good enough where we can write our own code. And specifically, not like any code. I can't just build you an app today, like with, a sentence, but if you're building an agent in our framework, and we have a thing called, it's actually called a plugin, which is like a module, which can contain any kind of capability that you just snap on, like bolt onto the side of the agent. So we have a Farcaster plugin, and now the agent can speak on Farcaster, right? We have an EVM plugin. Now it's got EVM wallet on all the EVM chains. And so in that kind of world, the only thing that's really worth building is the thing that builds itself. And so, yes, I've been working a lot on like modernizing our whole DeFi plugin stuff. So we have like high level plugins like LP Manager or bridging or lending that sit on top of like our Solana and EVM and these other plugins that are like, kind of, we have this like hierarchy of dependencies, and it's all coming together. But the really powerful thing is that if it can write its own plugins. And so we've been investing heavily into this, a plugin auto updating, plugin creation, and then just full agent creation. And so what the platform that we're working on now are about to drop is agent creator. Describe what agent you need. And when we say agent, that could be like a workflow, like something you might have typically held Zapier for. Hey, whenever I finish this podcast, like go through the transcript, find all the juicy bits and cut up some clips and then post them on SoundCloud. Like it'd be pretty sweet if they could just do that for you, right?
Oh yeah.
And so those kinds of problems are the problems we see that most people have. It's like, it's not like we couldn't find a problem that everyone has. It's more like everyone has the same class of problems. Of like, I have this A to B problem and I don't know how to solve it with the things that are out there today. I need a bespoke solution. And so we're really, really heavily leaning into like the agent can auto code solutions for you built on the agent framework within these very tight, like Disneyland experience level rails, where you get on, it solves the problem. It like maintains the same framework and types and everything. Like, so it's very like AI, like vibe coder friendly. And basically we've been just like, how do we optimize our whole code base to be maximally AI code friendly? And which has had a huge impact on how much it actually works, setting everything up. And so it very reliably now, if I'm like, yeah, I want a connector to Near, I want a Near plugin today. That's what I'm working on today. It's like, sure, no problem. Here's a Near plugin. And here's like 3 different demonstrations based on your other plugins that like, here's agent-to-agent messaging, and here's intents and escrow, and it just does it. And I'll have to go in and review and make sure it works. But once I get the real keys in there, and it's actually able to bash against the real mainnet and like validate that it worked. It really, really reliably works. And so I think this is the the future, everything else is downstream. Like DeFi is downstream. Building a new social network is downstream. If the factory builds the factories, then like all of that stuff is just just one window off on the side. There's an agent building that. I don't have to think about it.
Right. And so while you're not directly focused on the issue we were talking about earlier, like your factory of factories could produce the factory, which produces the next social network, or maybe it's not a new network, like you said, but at least sort of like the agent that is able to, find you the love of your life, find your co-founder, et cetera.
Someone's building this on Eliza. It's called Soulmates. I'd love to see more of that. I'd love to see a lot. I think there's a lot of people going for the low hanging fruit of like, hey, let's do character AI. Let's get people addicted to waifus. I'd love to see more people like, how do we use AI to make people more human? I think that's nobody's going to argue with that. Like it's such an easy sell.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's sort of my hope with technology more broadly, I would say, is that, how do I put this? Like I love technology, but like I don't want to use what people consider like technology today, like all day, every day. Like I want the technology to enable me to use less technology or use it more passively, basically. And a lot of that, is like stuff that we talked about earlier with, voice conversations with ChatGPT. You don't have to be at your desk, like locked in. You can just go for a walk and talk, and it's all audio. It doesn't feel like you're using technology, but behind the scenes, it's like this incredible technology. And so I'm a big fan of like, whether it's AI helping humans to be more human, or more broadly, like sort of technology helping people to like live more like of the good stuff in life, basically. That's sort of like my angle on it, which I think is, I think a lot of people are sort of obsessed with technology and they just like sort of want more of it. They don't.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I want to never have to code again. I honestly, I feel like kind of like a slave to my job. Like I work I work for myself, but unfortunately, but like I work nonstop building this stuff nonstop. And because I want it to exist, I would love to be able to be like, dude, I'm going to sleep in and tell the agent to build it today. And I'm just going to, like, oh, what a world. And there's so many things that we're not doing. I posted this the other day of like, how does anyone have time to like get their work done and have a relationship?
I saw this. Yeah. I was thinking like, well, you may like you sacrifice one or the other is sort of the answer. I feel like
we shouldn't have to.
Yeah, no, I agree. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think I'm just generally very, very aligned on all of that. I had something. What was it? I guess I forgot. But yeah. So yeah, go on.
Well, I'm very optimistic because like I think that we look at the market and we're like, oh, that's obviously Moloch and we're all gonna die. It's gonna just hyper optimize toward suffering or whatever. But like the reality is that anything you think of, you're like, man, I really wish that like technology gave me my humanity back. It's like, I'll bet you there's 100 companies right now trying to solve that problem. We don't even know that. They're just starting up, but there are so like everything you could want is the market force. Like the things that you want, almost certainly everyone else wants too. And like there is a market opportunity there. And so like every time there's this like big problem or like, what's the meaning or what's the purpose or like what's like someone's getting in there and making money off of it. And that actually gives me enormous hope. Like, that like any of the problems that arise, like someone's going to get rich off climate change. They're going to solve it and they're going to be a billionaire. And like that, I don't know, I think that's like a good way to approach technology generally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. A lot of people like sort of take an easy default to have like a pessimistic view, and it's like extremely easy to do. But I think there's a lot of reasons for optimism as well. And like, ultimately it's just a choice. You can't know. I mean, 10 years ago, no one knew like ChatGPT was going to come out when it did and like lead to this wave of everything that's followed. Like you just can't, I mean, obviously a lot of people are sort of like better at predicting the future directionally than others, but then COVID hits and you didn't see that coming and like all of these sorts of things. And so, I don't know, like my sort of stance is like, given that you can't know exactly how things are going to unfold anyway, and I think that's increasingly the case, the faster things move, the less far in the future you can predict, reliably and accurately, then like, why not choose optimism? Like there's plenty of cases, that you can make sort of, which lead to like sort of optimistic perspectives. Like why choose, it just doesn't seem like a pleasant way to live to like sort of choose the pessimistic one. And like I don't think you're any more likely to be right.
I agree, but I think we can even like in this case, we have so much agency. Like we are, you and I, and the people in this little world are like, you know, just by the fact that you're like into the space, that you're into crypto, that you have resources and you're like plugged in, you have so much ability to actually like influence other people or influence the way the world is going in like meaningful ways. Like we really do share memes with each other and carry those on. And I think like, especially for technologists, it's like, you could just like, if you don't feel like things are going the way that you want them to go, then just build the future. Like take it into your own hands. Like you have so much ability to make your own luck. And that was not always the case. I maybe it was, but like not with like really great impacts. You know, like maybe you could have been a king of like a small region or something. But now you can like you could change 1 billion people's lives. You know, if you,
Yeah.
so yeah. So there's kind of like I'd say anyone who's pessimistic, I'm like, you're just not trying hard enough. Like you should be the one solving this problem if you don't like it.
Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I think, I know we're coming up on time here and appreciate all the time you've taken, but last question, if you will, on, like basically you talked about like sort of having this insane and somewhat sudden momentum, all these followers, people yelling at you, all this pressure, doing the world tour for a little bit and realizing, it's actually going to move the needle more if I just glue myself to the desk for a while, which I also agree with. Like recently, a friend of mine, like, had some success with their like launch and immediately went on sort of this like pretty evident like road trip of like meeting all these people in space and whatever. And I asked him like why, like it's not clear to me why you did like why you're doing that. Like I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm curious to like understand, because for me, if something like starts hits a chord and is going really well, that means like I'm going nowhere. Like I'm locked to the desk and just working as much as possible and like sleeping the minimum and not working out and all of those things. And like the leverage is at the desk, not like on the road. But I'm also open-minded to the idea that that's wrong. But it sounds like that was your experience. And I'm curious just like sort of how you, more generally than this, even specifically like being at the desk versus being on the road, how you sort of process like this. You've worked on other things before, but this was probably like, an order of magnitude, it seems like at least sort of greater than anything you had experienced prior, and how you dealt with that sort of sudden information coming in and navigating, what to do about it in the aftermath.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. And I learned a lot of lessons kind of like very fast in rapid succession. And I definitely don't think that I made as much use of the opportunities available to me at the time as I could have, because there were so many opportunities at once. I mean, like it went from not really any interest to anything I was doing to every single VC in the space hitting me up and wanting to chat. And then this like very like, hey, are you coming to the conference? You coming to this? You coming to this? You're going to do this? And I from the outset was like, I don't want to do that. I just want to meet the people. And I want to meet the developers who are building our stuff. So I said, I'm going to go to China. I'm going to go to Asia. We're going to just meet the devs and do that. And people like set up all these events. But the reality is that it was mostly investors. Like the vast majority of people that I talked to in China were investors. And after they talked to me, they got FaceTime, they invested, because it's really, really important in certain parts of the country or world, especially, to have FaceTime and to get to know somebody if you're going to like make a financial decision on them. A lot of why our project went from like 200 million to 2.5 billion in a couple of weeks, which was pretty crazy, was because I think of Chinese investor community, like meeting them face to face and like shaking hands and stuff. But at the same time, like that kind of just created a lot of financial expectation, right? Like, where I wasn't going home and delivering the product. And I had hired people to like maintain and hired people to start leading. I'd hired a couple of different lead developers who just did not work out. Like they just didn't go at the pace that I needed, or like understand the thing, or just out the bull market really, really made it hard to hire people who weren't just like financially motivated, or either didn't feel like they were getting enough or were taking a lot and not giving a lot. It was like very, very hard, at that time. And trying to grow from being just me to being like a full organization, meeting all this demand and all this stuff at the same time. And we're a fair launch, so we don't have like a huge runway. Man, it was a lot. It was all very challenging. I think like there is a lot of value if you are like a business person with a strong technical team to be out on the road. Like there's definitely a lot of value. You will raise money. you will meet people face to face, and you will own it. But I am really a nerd. I'm really a technical person. Um, and I think that, so then Dave, like, I'm just not getting that much out of these. I don't have a CRM of like VCs and people I'm tracking. You really have to, like, because you go way beyond Dunbar's number, or you're starting to track thousands of people in your life. You have to remember them and follow up. And I just want to sit down and like tackle hard problems all day. And so I've built a team that's really supported the other stuff, like the ops and the non-technical as well. I just kind of had to. But I found that, like, for me personally, as a technical person, sitting down and doing the work is the only way to move the needle. I also think like the entirety of ChatGPT is basically built on the insights of one dude. Well, there's a couple of things that happened, but the first thing that happened is AlexNet, which is Ilya from OpenAI created this thing called AlexNet, where he realized that you could use deep learning to beat ImageNet. And that deep learning to beat ImageNet thing is kind of what broke the doors open on deep learning effectively working. And after that, you get transformers, you get some things before transformers that are kind of pointing at like more efficient ways to do this. But basically, they're all building upon this idea that Ilya had, which is like, no, just more compute, more compute, more compute. Like he's the reason GPT is, I think, the way it is. And it really comes down to, like, he left OpenAI and started raising $1 billion. And it's like, he is worth $1 billion. Like, the stuff in his brain is worth it. There are not people like that, and one person can really, really make a difference. If there was no Elon Musk, there would be no electric cars. Say about him, I'm not exactly a fan because he banned me from Twitter, but like, you gotta give him credit where credit is due. And so I think in the same way, I had to like, if you are the star player on your team, then you can't go be the manager. You know what I mean? And go hire teammates to play for you. It won't work. You have to be out on the field playing the ball. And I just realized, like, I actually can scale my capability a lot more with AI if I'm a hyper technical person, and I just invest more in that than if I like do the things I'm not really good at. I'd rather like hire the things that I'm not great at and then lean into the things that I'm like unique at. And I think that there's just more leverage there. It was still working it out, but I think long term that will, like, definitely the product direction is much clearer because I am there saying this is what I think it should be in the future, and I've like put so much time into agents that I kind of get it. Whereas like a lot of the devs coming in are like full stack devs who are learning about agents, and they just don't have that like background of years and years in this. And so I just can't just explain it to them and be like, okay, that's going to be done. It's not just like laying bricks. It's much more like building the line in Dubai. It's like building a hyper complex real estate thing than like, okay, you know what I mean? Like the level of technology we're talking about is like a GPT class problem. It's not like, oh yeah, you just go and build a product and sell it. You have to like, you either get it right or you don't.
Right.
And yeah, so I think in that regard, if you are a technical founder, be hyper technical, lean in, and just don't worry about the other stuff, or hire people to do that stuff. That seems to be what's working for me.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And the whole conversation's been super interesting. And it does seem like, just from, the story and how you're talking about it, it feels like you've landed in the right place for the last number of months. And I mean, it seemed like the beginning, I don't know, it's always hard to evaluate, like, is it worth having this huge pop off to bring attention to something in the first place, so that you could sort of like amortize that over time or something, and like gives the project like longer legs? Or should, would it have been better to focus on the product and have that be more gradual? But it seems like you're sort of in your comfort zone now.
Yeah, but I think generally, like, attention is really hard to get and really hard to keep. But I do think that I would have rather had a slow come up than like a really, really fast up and down. It just makes it a lot harder. Everything is harder because we have this now. We have this like big valuation and big expectations, and anything we want to do from here is like in that light, as opposed to being like fresh, like not fully diluted, fully distributed. Like, oh, we can get it early, and this thing is about to pop. Like, everyone wants to be early, and so that
Right.
early thing is already gone. But now, hopefully, like, the cool thing about crypto is you see these like shoot up, crash down, or then like kind of go back up again. If the team is delivering products. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah. No, I mean, plenty of examples of the latter, for sure. So, yeah, well, excited to, see what the future holds for you and for Eliza and the team. And hopefully it is still extremely early, regardless of, how big the market cap may be.
I think we're super early. I still think we're like 2 generations before this stuff really hits mainstream. We just gotta survive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it, man. Again, thanks for taking the time, and yeah, look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. Take
All
care.
right.
Good chat.